Lamar City Council regular meeting called to order Tuesday, January 21st, 2014, 12 p.m. Prior to going into our agenda today, we feel it's very fit and befitting to say the pledge allegiance to the flag. So would you all stand and join me, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Bev, could we have roll call, please?
Nelson, Knapp,
Yes.
Rexwinkle.
Yes.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody in the chamber today, and Bennett with the Lamar's Daily Sentinel, and particularly you people that are watching over television and at your homes or wherever. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Second.
Motion been made and approved to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going to start first of all with our general discussion, and the way we handle our general discussion is we ask you to stand up to the podium and state your name and address, and if anybody has any concerns or comments or good things about the city, why, we're certainly welcome to listen to them, and our city council will listen to them with intent, but they cannot make any decision on them at this time. Is there anyone in the chamber that has anything to do with discussion? If not, going to move on to John.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing.
Nothing today.
No, pass.
All right. Consent items. All items, excuse me, listed under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on those items unless the request is made prior to the council votes on the motion. Today, we have 7 of them. First one is approval of the January 7th, 2014 regular meeting minutes. Number 2 is a list of bills for period ending 1/17/14. Number 3 is a monthly financial statement for December 2013. Number 4 was a vehicle purchase, which is a fire truck. Number 5 is equipment purchase for the new wastewater treatment plant. And number 6 is a purchase of the golf course. And number 7 is equipment lease and purchases for the public works. Does any council member have any questions on this or anything they'd like to visit about before we make the motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda 1 through 7.
Second.
Motion been made and second to approve the consent items 1 through 7. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going to the action items, the first one is the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Consulting Contract. At the January 7th, 2014 meeting, the council approved the interview committee recommendation of architect and engineering services for the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Project with Frank's Design Group, PC, and authorizing them to negotiate an architect and engineering services agreement to be considered on January 21st, 2014, which is today. Attached is the agreement for pre-designs schematic design phase only. Upon completion of this phase, it's anticipated that a subsequent second agreement will be presented. The administration has met with these people and recommends the approval of the contract with the Frank's Design Group, PC, at an hourly basis with a maximum not to exceed the cap of $40,940. The financial impact remains the same as the budget remains as follows. The CDB grant is $500,000. The city match is out of lost funds is $250,000, and the property owner match is $250,000, or a total project of $1 million. I open it up to any questions any council member may have.
I guess I've been talking with Joe. Are we fully clear that Phase 1 is $40,940 as a not-to-exceed cap? Is that for everything in Phase 1?
Yes,
Yes.
including expenses.
yes, it's a total not to exceed.
Because the question I had with it, it talks about hourly cap, and then it has the compensation for reasonable expenses. And it looks like they're all in there in the estimate. That is just,
Yes,
My
that
question.
that is an all-inclusive. On page 9 of the contract, there's $1,750 for estimated reimbursable expenses. So that should be an all-inclusive, not to exceed.
So if their hourly labor costs are less than that and their fees exceed that, the total still will not exceed the 40,000.
Correct.
940
Correct.
for phase one.
And what does Phase 1, as far as the property owners, and I should ask, how many of the properties met the deadline or had an approved extension, or however we ended up doing that?
As you're all aware, we had 40 properties that enlisted to be part of the program about a year ago. Those properties were approved by SHPO at the state level. So those are the 40 that potentially could be in the program. To date, 26 of those have executed the documents and paid the deposit. We did require a 1/4 deposit, and their share is 25%. So it's 1/4 of the 25% is what they had to deposit. Right now, we have about 40,000 in the bank from those. We have 3 of the 40 that have elected to not be part of the program. The remaining 11 are still interested in the program, still want to proceed, but have not brought their documents back or their deposit back. So we are working with them to get answers to their questions.
Because that does affect the hours that an architect
Absolutely.
would spend. So do they have a deadline? I mean, the architect will not start working with any of those 11.
Absolutely. The architect will not work with anyone until at least the deposit is paid.
Okay. So has a date been set for that? Because I know this has to all be done within a certain time period.
Yeah, the architect, if this contract is approved, the architect will start working immediately. And over the next 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, he'll put together his thoughts. He'll come to town, look at the buildings. He'll actually start meeting with the property owners probably in about a month. He'll have 2 to 3 meetings with each property owner. And then he'll put together a package which will then go to SHPO at the state level. And they take 4 to 6 weeks to review it.
And that's all included in that Phase 1, the 4940?
Yes.
For at least the 26 property owners?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Any other
this
questions?
company is fully understanding that this is going to be a single audit since it's $500,000. So it's going to have to get reviewed and have to meet all the compliance guidelines and stuff that
Yes.
A133 audits have to do.
Yes, and SIMCO is handling all of the administrative side of this particular grant. so.
Oh, good.
And is there any issues that they have right now or concerns that they have with any of those compliance issues?
Not at this point, nothing that he's brought forward.
Okay, because before you spend the money, you got to make sure you got all those 13 ducks in a row or whatever
Yep.
for those compliance issues, so, okay.
And one of the reasons that this architect was chosen, I don't know if Bill or Rich, is that they've worked with historic preservation in other communities, correct?
Yes, they have done this in other communities, and they are working currently with a couple of other communities for ongoing projects.
I make a motion approving the contract with Frank's Design Group PC for architect and engineering services for the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Project on a monthly basis, on an hourly basis with a maximum not to exceed $40,940.
Is there a second?
Second.
I do have another question before we
Okay.
act on it, though. I got a couple questions. First of all, how was the deposit, which is a non-refundable deposit to the business owners, correct? At this point, that's a non-refundable. I had a couple business owners ask me, they said they were confused as to the amount of that initial deposit, which we have right now, you're saying. Okay, so
Yes.
some of them thought it was a 10%, and then we went back and said, no, it's 25, so they had to ante up more money. How is that, I want real clarity on how that's working.
Okay. Originally, a year ago, when this project was first brought forth to the property owners, there was some question on what the deposit was going to be, what the amount of the deposit was going to be, and there may have been some things said at that point that were not correct or were misinterpreted, because we did not set the actual deposit amount until just within the last couple months.
And that was based, how did you base a value on any given property, saying Joe's building versus Bob's building? How did you say, okay, it's 2,500 or it's 1,300?
We knew about what the overall architect cost was going to be, and we knew we were going to have costs going in, so we wanted the property owners to have a share of that cost. So what we did is we knew about what the estimate was, we figured out what we needed from the property owners so that we kind of match what the property owners are putting in to arrive at enough money to pay the architect,
Okay.
which has to be done before any building actually starts.
And the property owner can accept part of his project or not. I'll use Joe as an example. Joe says, boy, I don't know if I'm real keen on some of my windows, but on some of them I'd do it.
Yes.
He volunteered that 2 weeks ago. So is the architect gonna then say, okay, Joe, we'll listen to you, and it's not a carte blanche, take it or leave it?
Nope. The architect will come to town, like I said, he'll meet with Joe either 2 or 3 times. He'll have a list of what he thinks should be done. Joe can kind of pick and choose. Joe can have his own ideas. Again, that will be between the architect and the property owners to arrive at something they can agree on as what they want done to their building. I mean, the property owner has the final say on what gets done to the building.
Okay. I like to see 26 of 40, because if it would have been less than 50%, I was going to be very hesitant. The other concern that I have, once again, being the new guy on the block, is I know we have streetscape, has never been finished. There's money in a fund, it was a project that was started down there, or down here, and it's never been finished. And I tell you, when you start, this building participates, this building doesn't, these 2 do, 3 don't, I'd like to know, what's that gonna look like? I guess I'm asking the 2 gentlemen, I mean, are we accomplishing our goal of wanting to restore the downtown into a historical district if we've got this cookie cutter participation level of the businesses?
How do you make them all participate, Clark?
I don't know that you can, but I mean, I'm not sure you can make them participate.
I wouldn't think that in all the other communities that this grant has been applied to, that they've had 100% participation. I don't see how you can do that.
I'm not saying you can, Jason, I'm just asking what's it gonna look like if you have every other building, at these ratios, you've got every other building that participates and every other building that doesn't.
Then you have every other building looking better than it does now.
And Streetscape was an ongoing program based on if dollars were budgeted, so it wasn't necessarily a dedicated program says we have to do so much every year. It was totally voluntary.
But we've still got $167,000 in that fund, correct?
In the streetscape fund?
Yes.
We've got 126,000, I think it is, that's been set aside for streetscape in the local option fund.
Okay.
So it's not, if, it can be reallocated
It
to
can be
something else.
reallocated.
Okay, and that's fine, I was just, okay, all right.
I think we ran into some issues with bricks and this kind of weather, as opposed to concrete.
Okay.
And I guess I would think if we're making improvements to 30, 35 buildings, I mean, that's got to show as an improvement for downtown. Hopefully, at some point, we would qualify for another one of these type of grants. And I think, if the property owners saw what we really made happen, maybe those other ones would come on board at that
Okay.
point.
I mean, okay.
Does that answer your questions, Clark?
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Been a motion second on the table, approving the contract with Frank's Design Group, PC, for architect and engineering services for the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Project on an hourly basis with a maximum not to exceed the cap of $40,940. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, on the action items is the list of fees, charges, and license. Attached is a list of various fees, charges, and license, which show charges as follows. Number 1 is the current 2013 fees, charges, and license. Number 2 is the proposed 2014 fees, charges, and license. I know the committees have met on this, and we've spent a fair amount of time on this. The committee and staff recommendations are listed on the attached spreadsheet. Any council members have any questions about these fees or charges?
I think we did something similar last year. I'm wondering if, whatever we end up approving, if we can pull out that golf course until you maybe check some of the questions that have been raised
Sure.
on that one, on charging. So if we could just pull that one out, and I don't know if anybody else has anything else that, and we can still approve, or if we just need to table the whole thing.
Question on the one that was handed out?
Yes.
On the credit debit card?
Yes.
It says 50 to $1. Does that mean 50 to $100?
No, to $1.
Anything over $50 is 4%. Anything under $50 is a $1 charge.
Okay.
So like 9-hole green, yeah.
I don't know, is that clear there?
Just give me the
Oh,
dash.
okay, all right.
He can use
And
a
I think-
colon instead of a dash.
Okay.
And
all
I
right,
think,
I see
Delana,
what
we
you're
could
saying.
actually approve it with this in there, and then if we had to change it, we could change
Yeah,
it.
we could do that.
Then we don't
Okay.
have to vote on it
Sure.
again.
Okay.
Because I think everybody's happy with the numbers, even for the golf course, but I think we just want to, I think we approve all the fees in total, and then if for some reason something comes up, we used to address these as they come up anyway, so we could address them if something else happened.
Okay, yeah, and I'm fine with that too. I
Is that
just, I
good,
just
Wade?
want to make sure that everybody knows we're, still kind of working on tweaking that one, maybe just a touch.
Right. John, did you get your
Yeah,
question
I
answered?
was, the way it was typed there, it was,
All right.
Can you put a
And
colon instead of a dash?
it's a-
We can do that.
yes, please.
We can do that.
I think that'll
you
clarify
wanna
that
put-
one,
You want to put that in the motion?
as amended.
Hey, can I ask, how do these landfill fees, what exactly are we negotiating? I mean, saying this is what the water bill, landfill charges will be on the water bills? I mean, they haven't changed, I'm just curious how that works.
We base it on what we get charged by the landfill. They charge an assessment fee, so much per person, and then there's actually a tonnage fee, so we calculate back what it actually costs us.
Okay, and then we get, the blue barrels are free.
The
I
blue
mean,
toes,
or
recycled toes are
The
free,
tonnage of the
yes.
blue barrels are free,
Yes.
okay, all right.
And that fee goes into the solid waste fund.
Yes.
The solid waste fund, for a couple of years, was gaining. For this last year, it's basically held steady. We don't want to actually make money on garbage, so we want it to kind of break even.
Okay.
And as long as it breaks even, we're going to leave the fees where they are.
Sure.
As if it starts losing money, then we're going to have to raise the fee.
Right, okay, all right.
When we started that program back in
Yes.
2005, if my memory serves me right, that landfill fee base, or that was in the hole for what, $300,000?
That was a storm sewer fee. That's a different.
storm sewer, excuse me.
That's a different.
Yeah.
We finally got that
The landfill wasn't in
turned
that
Okay,
position
okay.
at one point. That was
Okay.
quite a few
Answer?
years ago.
Answered.
And as long as our recycling stays up on that one, unless the landfill raises their rates, it should
It should
hold
stay.
fairly
Mhm.
steady
Yep.
and not require an
And we've been very
increase.
fortunate, because if you look at surrounding towns, it's anywhere from $17 to $25 a month, which means it's anywhere to 50% to 100% cheaper in water to do your garbage, because people are doing the recycling.
I am on the Utilities Committee, and I mean, I'll just tell you right up front, what I said in committee was that, in the next couple of years, I'd like to see us look, and I'm probably gonna get rocks thrown at me here, but I'd like to look at the water rates, and I believe it's the third tier water rates, in the coming years. I would like to see the city, start to build up a slush fund for infrastructure, that would be available if, say, Lee Drive needed so many, 300 feet of new water main. But I'd kind of like to just, we agreed to these water rates this year, but I'd like to see us build a little bit of a slush fund. And I hope this is the forum to say that, but I'm good with what we have here for now.
Scott, on that one, do we have like a 5-year plan that we implemented 3 out of it, or was it 10 years from Bolton and Maine?
It was a 5-year plan that you implemented 3.
And they're all fully cost-based rates. by
And we
customer
are in the
class.
last year. 14
Of
was the
that
last
3
year of that
years.
3 years.
And then we've got the 2 years of recommendations.
Yes.
That we can take a look and see what the changes
So
were
this would
on
be something to
that.
address next year then on the.
Right, yeah, that's absolutely what I was getting at, was I'd just like
Clark,
to see.
the reason we did that is, number one, the improvements weren't implemented, and as you are fully aware, we're just implementing the water tower and the high service pump station and the booster station as part of the contract that you just approved within the last month. And we've had a pre-construction on that now. So as we get in that and know a little bit more as to the final cost, then the council had vowed prior to take a new look at that last 2 years of the recommendation.
Okay, okay.
There's your question, Clark?
It does.
Okay. Entertain a motion on the
Motion
fees.
adopting resolution 14-3, approving recommended list of fees, charges, license, calendar year 2014 with the amended page 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second, adopting resolution number 14-3, approving the recommended list of fees, charges, and license for the calendar year of 2014 with the amendment. We have a roll call on that, Bev?
Rexwinkle,
Yes.
Perky?
Yes.
Knapp?
Yes?
Goodchild?
Yes.
Motion carried. Number 3 on the action items, amending Chapter 29 Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission is proposing changes to Chapter 29 Historic Preservation Commission. Attached is a copy of the amended ordinance and an email from the commission explaining the reasons for the charges. Have you had a chance to go through that and look it over, or is there any questions that you might have?
Somebody that wants
Oh, here,
to
excuse me.
explain it to
I'm
us.
sorry, Rich.
I don't understand.
Yes, okay. Richard Zitlow, 1309 Turnberry Avenue, and member of the Historic Preservation Commission. And if you have questions on this, or if you want me to just kind of hit the highlights, I don't know, which copy do you have? Do you have the copy with the red highlighted what the changes are, or do you have the final complete copy?
We have your email to Jason and then the ordinance with the
Final
changes.
ordinance.
So,
Okay. Well, I'll just kind of walk you through what's changed on it. On item 4, under 29.02 definitions, we added item 4, defining design guidelines. It's referred later in the ordinance, so we needed to define what it means here. So that's a fairly standard for design guidelines for historic preservation. In 29.03, item 8, it originally said we would meet 3 times a year. SHPO requires that we meet 4 times a year, so we just updated this to be correct with the state guidelines. Under 29.04, powers of the commission, there was an item 4, I don't know if it's in your copy, but there was an item in there that said we would appoint a design committee that would review applications for the Main Street, the Linked Investments for Tomorrow program, the LIFT program. And in researching that with the state treasurer's office, that program is for finding bank financing for minority ownership of small businesses. And there was no need at this point for there being a third party to review that. It's between the State Department, the property owner, and the local bank to work out the details of it. Why it was put in here, we couldn't find any particular history on why this was added to the Historic Preservation Commission, or why it logically would even end up there if we needed something like that. It's really minority ownership of small businesses, nothing really to do with historical. All right. So we recommended removing that. And then we added 2 items. Item 4 is replacing that about our continuing the efforts of historic preservation in the city by making recommendation to the council and boards on preservation issues when they come up and when requested. It says we're available to. That was one of the reasons we looked at this was as we got into the downtown restoration project. One of the questions was what's the role of the commission in this, and what authority or what role, responsibility do we have? And in looking at the ordinances, we said, well, there's nothing here that says we have any responsibility. So in researching other city ordinances for other historic preservation commissions, this is standard verbiage that resides in other ordinances around the state of Iowa and Nebraska and around here that we've researched. So that's fairly straightforward. And then item 5, as we provide this assistance and guidance, one of the things we realized is we needed some guidelines as to, so what does it mean to be historic and to do a historic restoration? So what we are following is recommending that we have the Iowa State, the SHPO office's standard of rehabilitation will be our design guideline as well. As the city goes through the CDBG program, you mentioned earlier that SHPO will be reviewing what the architect comes up with and what the property owners agree to. They will be applying these standards, so we're just basically saying we're going to adopt those same things. If you ask us what should be done, we're going to follow these same guidelines. This is here, in my mind, as much for the property owner and as much for the commission members as well, so that when we are asked questions about what can we do to this building, we'll have some guidelines, so it removes any subjectivity from our part or emotions or anything else from the discussion. It says, here are the boundaries, here's the guidelines of what should be done, what can be done. And I have copies of the guidelines here. It's a one-page thing with 10 points, fairly straightforward, common sense. Basically says don't do anything to devalue the historic value of the building or the historic characteristics of it. At least maintain them, improve them if you can.
And I think that item 5 that you added is a good one to kind of highlight, simply because it indicates that you're providing assistance and guidance. It's
Right.
not control over
No.
private property. I know when Foster Park became a historic district, I happen to live in that district, and I had to make sure that
Right.
nobody was going to be telling me what I could and couldn't do.
Right.
Now, within the CDBG grant, there may be, more yeses or nos, but the property owner still has the ultimate decision
Correct.
as to whether or not something's done.
Right.
But none of this affects any control over private property. They
That's
still have
correct.
their full
Yeah.
rights and
Yeah, the commission was very
responsibilities.
aware of that, and we very intentionally picked items and verbiage to put in here that says, we're here for consultation, for guidance. It's not a controlling effort. The property owner still, as Bill said, the property owner still has the final say over what happens to their building. But again, in my mind, the property owner, if I was a property owner and I was on the historic register, I would, I've obviously made a commitment that I want this property to remain, keep its historic character. So what does that mean? How do I know what kind of windows to replace and where to go for those guidelines? And that's what this provides, is guidelines for their benefit as well as for the commission's. All right?
Any questions for Rich? Thanks a lot, Rich, for updating us.
Thanks, Rich. All right, thank you.
And keeping us in line.
Joe, did everything work in there with you with state guidelines or anything? I mean, was there no issues?
I had just one question about what kind of regulation in the definition. It just says design guidelines means regulations. It's kind of pretty open.
Was regulations defined elsewhere?
Yeah, this is from the SHPO website. These are
Okay,
it's basically the Secretary of Interior's 10 points for
okay.
rebuild.
So that's what you referenced when you talked about regulations.
Should we add that wording to be more, to pin it down to what we're saying by regulations?
Well, again, it's not regulations, it's guidelines.
Standards.
Yeah, yeah. And
Any other
we're,
questions?
Or we can approve it and do it, and then the second reading is next time, and you can make sure before the next time we meet.
Joe, it's not in definitions, but it is in that paragraph 5. Did you see it there?
Oh, referencing this document.
right.
Specifically, the
Yes,
second
section
sentence.
5,
The commission shall utilize the Iowa State Historic Preservation's Office Standard of Rehabilitation as a design guideline.
Which then references back to
Yeah.
section 1, number
Okay.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, the definition there, yeah.
Yep.
Can never
I
be
might not
easy.
ever get out of the ordinance, but you'll have this documented there.
Well, we gotta keep the attorneys.
I didn't say that.
Okay. Motion.
Motion to approve the recommended changes to Chapter 29 Historic Preservation Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second to approve the recommended changes to Chapter 29 Historic Preservation Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 918, amending Chapter 29 Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
There's been a motion made second to approve the first reading of the ordinance number 918, amending Chapter 29 Historic Preservation Commission. Do we have a roll call on that, Beth?
Goodchild,
Yes.
Knapp,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
Rex Winkel.
Yes.
Motion passed.
It's good because we need.
Okay, going to
we gotta have four,
discussion.
don't we?
John, do you have anything on discussion today?
Actually, I've talked to Scott about this. I put two documents, a request for proposals for surface transportation program projects and transportation alternatives. And Scott would review it briefly, just to make sure we all understand what this means and what we're intending to get approved by using this process.
The first document is entitled, right underneath where it says Siouxland Regional Transportation Planning Association, Surface Transportation Program. The second document is the Transportation Alternatives Program. So these are two different programs, and dating back all the way to 1991, Congress did go along with the idea of having the two programs. Originally, 10% of the total federal dollars was set aside for enhancement projects. Recently, with the new legislation, that has now changed to the terminology transportation alternative. And what that is things like, the one that we've used it mostly for is rec trails. But it's any kind of enhancement to a transportation system other than the primary modal transportation elements like roadway, air, rail. So it is stuff like historic buildings that deal with transportation, to depots, to rest areas, to enhancement of the area around the other transportation features. So it might be putting plants in the ditches and replanting ditches to native grasses, all that kind of stuff. And again, historically, we have used the Transportation Alternative Program for rec trails. The one that bids tomorrow, and you will see it then on your agenda on February 6th, is a rec trail and that bridge across the Floyd River. On that one, that's past tense, but we're getting $160,000 on the project to get that built. That came under now termed transportation alternative. So that's just kind of the historical perspective on it. What this February 28th deadline is for all the jurisdictions within the 5-county region to submit their application on any new project. And so I guess John is right to bring this up to you as to, is there anything you want us staff to submit on your behalf under the Transportation Alternative Program?
And we're talking time period 2000,
We're talking in federal fiscal year 2018. And the reason for that is, I did bring my file, from 2014, which is the current fiscal year that we're sitting in now, to 2017, that has already been committed from previous applications. And every year we go over a new look and another year. So this coming period, we're going to be reviewing what needs to be added in 2018. It is competitive because there's 5 counties and 2 cities within that 5-county region, Lamar's and Cherokee, are also separate voting members. So there's 7 people that sit on the TAC committee, that's the Technical Advisory Committee, and John, that's where I sit. John sits on the policy board, and it has to go through both the policy and the TAC committee in order to get approved. So it is competitive. Examples of applications that are currently on the STIP, if I can find them in a hurry here, is Lamar's is still on there with our Highway 3 as I just already mentioned. Cherokee has a project in FY15. Galva has one in FY14. Holstein has one in FY17. Of course, ours is in FY14. And FY16 right now, there was, funds were accumulated.
The land.
Yes, if you do the total project cost, it's probably closer to your first figure,
64.
60/40.
Yeah.
Because the agency, whoever's hosting it, has to cover 100% of land acquisition, and some of the other soft costs, there might be a little legal, easement, what have you, as
Okay.
well as engineering. But construction, it's 80/20.
Okay.
Then, so I'll let you think about that for a moment, and we do have a couple other council meetings coming up before then, so we don't have to put you on the spot today. It was good that John reminded me to bring this up. Secondly, we have the surface transportation program. That is for the roadways. To put it simple, it has to be on a federal aid system. And those are identified by a federal aid map. And Lamar's roadways that are typically on that are our arterial streets and collector streets. Typically residential or non-collectors are not on there. So examples of that is 4th Street South, Central Avenue, 12th Street, 6th North, 4th Avenue East, all the way through town, K49 or 7th. I believe 14th Avenue East is on there. So what I had submitted a year ago, and then at least 3 years prior, each year, was to continue the saga of white topping. And I think I've mentioned this to you over the years. So we were thankful of doing 4th Avenue East for the 10 blocks, 8 blocks. We do have partial approval of Central Avenue from 3rd North to 3rd South. That's 6 blocks, right through our downtown. That is for a white top. It is for FY17, but I want to verify that. Yes. FY17, I had estimated that stretch of the white topping only to be $750,000. They have, a year ago, John approved it, I approved it, and the whole groups approved it for $284,000, which represented the remaining balance for FY17. Now, that's not anywhere close to the 80/20 that I just spoke about. They did tell us that they would give due consideration this year for the balance of that to bring it up to 80/20. I'm not guaranteed of it. I don't know what they said at the policy board. I don't attend those.
No, they didn't say anything more about it.
Okay. So one thing we need to do is bring that up to 80/20 for sure. However, it's your choice. We can also go after funding for some other project if you prefer. Suggestions would be some portion of the balance of Central Avenue from 5th South, and I'm skipping from 3rd to 5th South. That 2 blocks had been previously done, I believe it was 04, 05 timeframe. So that's in good shape, that's fairly new.
Rex's favorite street is still 4th.
That's still Rex's
So-
favorite,
That's Harris, we want to get them just on contract with us, is what we want to do.
yeah.
They
So
do this- blew the street.
from 5th South to 12th Street is still an AC overlaid, it's overlaid over PC, but the PC is fairly old.
Yes.
And so that's a potential candidate. And then going 4 blocks east of Central on 12th, and going 6 blocks west of Central on 12th are my suggestions to you. That those are your highest classification streets on the federal aid system.
That's why I wanted to have Scott bring this up, so we can kind of lay a plan for,
Well, and I think we had kind of talked about the timing of each of those areas that you just mentioned, and especially with the CDBG to kind of beautify that downtown area. I think, cost aside, it would be a mistake to step back, and some of those areas, especially as you get more towards the 2nd and 3rd streets, both north and south, really have some issues as you cross Central, whether you're a vehicle or a pedestrian. And so I think it would be a mistake to take that one out away from the top of the list, especially with the downtown work going on. And if it's FY17, that timing should work fairly well with the work on the buildings that we hope to have done within a year to 2.
and I think what Scott was saying is we could, as part of our funding, we could request further assistance on that project, or we could spread it out and look at going north from 3rd Street north, or go south from 5th Street, south to 12th, or do part of 12th either way from Central Avenue.
Yep.
Yeah, because 12th is kind of the other gateway into town, too.
Right.
You got Central and you got 12th.
I think we'd rather get the 80/20 on the current one that's already been approved, because frankly, we may need to do something on 12th before that timeframe.
That's the other issue is, although they're all really good candidates, do we have the luxury of waiting for the funding? And again, there's 6 other jurisdictions also vying for the funds, so we're not always going to be successful each year, and therefore, I think Rex's statement is true.
And I think but I think we should always keep in mind the white topping, because
Yes.
the chip seal and the other things we pursued just don't seem to
No,
hold up.
and I don't have a problem with that. I just know that when you look at 12th right now, and then you say it's going to be 17 or 18 before you fix it.
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't think we have that luxury of time.
I think we may have a full house before then.
Right.
And I just want to be really, really careful how we apply for the funds, so we aren't having issues like we did on 4th, losing pedestrian crossings on intersections. So,
Well, that's
because
what
if we
happens
have
with the
that,
federal
because we have
projects.
uncontrolled intersections downtown here, I don't want to be
But
losing.
that's your other deal, is that if we get this area all done, we could actually spend our own money and do 5th through 8th or something like that, that we would have that issue with. We don't have to use federal funds, we don't have to use all these special rules and stuff like that, and we can get it done maybe more efficiently, because we can just do it in our own time, if we had to,
So very true.
you know?
You could use your road use tax fund and all those federal stipulations and criteria are not attached.
Yeah, so since we've already got them attached to this area, let's try to get the additional monies for this area.
Right. And I don't think the central spot would have any, it wouldn't be an issue. They're controlled.
No.
You have stop signs. The problem was when there's no stop signs, and so we've either got lights or stop signs or whatever, but
Sidewalks don't properly align or
yeah,
whatever.
let's not use that money on anything that's gonna have an issue with that, because it just escalates the costs way too much.
Well, we can bring it up to Scott if you got issues in the next couple of weeks, and then we can talk
Right.
about the next council meeting, but I think that's
I'll
that's
probably
my
put
2
it on
cents.
as a actual action item.
Yes,
And you don't have to take action on the 6th. What do we got, the 6th and then the 20th?
right.
Oh, okay.
So
I think- yeah,
primarily,
thank you.
you just want to hear back from us, especially on the
4th and 18th.
transportation
Yep.
alternatives. Okay.
But I think it's important we discuss this as a group, so we're all aware of the plans that we have and how we want to proceed.
Yep.
Good enough, sounds like a
Okay.
plan.
All right.
Thank
Anything
you.
else,
That's all I
John?
got.
How about you, Clark?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Delana?
I had nothing today.
Rex?
I'm good so far. We gotta hear from these firemen and stuff like that. And, you know, I noticed that when they get a fire truck, they both show up in fancy uniforms.
I was gonna say, you see how they're dressed out there?
I was wanting to know which vehicle in the picture we're getting rid of. Can you pick one, I don't know, I don't know, I can't tell from the picture.
We're
I
gonna
just
talk
want-
about that.
Okay, third from the right.
Scott?
That's all I have.
You have any more? Bill?
You want to talk about the budget now, or you?
Now, let's let the fire truck go
Go
first,
ahead.
and then we'll talk
All
about.
right, let's go talk about that fire truck. Dave?
You guys approved the fire.
He's got that approved. He's done
Thank
that.
Thank you,
Bring us up to date.
Thank you for that. I think you all have a copy of our year-end report. And yes, thank you for the fire truck approval today. As you know, we're trying to keep our fleet as current as we can to meet our insurance ratings that we've lowered with a lot of hard work and effort, and to be able to pump the water that we need to pump for our industries, for their insurance and things like that, and to meet our National Fire Protection Association stuff. So thank you for that. Just a quick overview of our year-end report for 2013. Thank you for your support this year, past year. We'd like to thank the businesses and industries and private individuals that also support us throughout the year with their donations and things like that. That's how we survive. So the cover sheet, we finally did an actual group picture and turnouts with all our equipment. That hadn't been done since about 1985. So we did do a group picture and things like that. Thank you to St. James Church. That's where this was taken, was down behind the church. Father Isley down there, he was all excited and helping us out and providing chairs for us and everything else. So he's pretty excited. So we thank St. James for that. The next page is just the current membership for the year 2013. Currently, we sit at 25 members. We did have one leave us off of this list that you see before you. So we're at about 25 right now. I do have a couple, 3 applications that we'll be reviewing this next week. So hopefully we can get those folks on board. The next breakdown is our call total for the year, 360 calls for service. And there's your breakdown. One thing I want to mention, our fire dollar loss down there towards the bottom was the lowest it's been in history. And a couple things with that. One, we get in and get the fires out quicker. And 2, a lot of things that we had on fire this year weren't worth a lot of money. So both those things make us look good. As for this year already, we've already beat that grand total. So we're at 24 calls in 21 days for the new year here, and it's the 21st of January. So it's been a busy month already, and we've already surpassed that fire dollar loss total. So it was a good year, but it's over. So we'll move on. The next page is a graph, a colored graph that just kind of shows you the last few years of call totals. We're about 41 calls short of what we were last year, which is a good thing. Last year was a record year because of the dry conditions and things like that. So something I would say with this, though, we were down 41 calls, but some of the calls actually lasted longer. So as far as timing and budgets and salaries and things, we're running about the same as last year due to the, sometimes we go out on a call, we're out there for an hour, and sometimes like a semi rollover with fuel on it was 4.5, 5 hours by the time we got it cleaned up. So those things change a little bit. The next page is another graph just showing you the breakdown. One thing I will show you there is 139 chief investigations. What that is when your full-time fire chief or assistant chief go out and handle a call that we haven't had to page all the members from work to come to. So that is a good thing, and hopefully with Mike and I on board that can continue that way, that we're not calling in our volunteers or paid on-call people from their jobs as much if it's something that two of us can handle now. So that's been an added benefit of having a full-time assistant to assist with that. The next page is things that we conducted, don't always show up on the grid. Inspections that we conduct throughout the year, Mike or I, the training sessions that we offer to our individuals. Now, that doesn't mean they all attended the 63 training sessions, but 63 were offered. Also, we had 289 meetings or programs that we attended, and then classes conducted. This year we did 82 classes for different public agencies or entities, reaching about 1,010 people. So that would be all the fire extinguisher classes we've been doing, all the emergency medical training that we've been doing for our industries, also any other type of class or program that we're putting on with our certifications to the general public or to businesses. And so I want to remind businesses, if you want fire extinguisher training for your employees or anything like that, or you have a question, if we provide that, go ahead and give us a call at the station so that you wouldn't have to outsource that maybe to a company out of Minnesota or Nebraska or something. We can do that in-house and form a working relationship with your business or entity. We'd love to do that. So we've upped those a little bit this year. Fire prevention talks, we run about 20 to 30 of those a year in the schools. This year we did 25 and actually spoke to 452 children. However, 1,500 students get the handouts and the literature, and that's all provided through donations from businesses and some private individuals to buy those color books and those stop, drop, and roll things and things like that. So we want to thank people for that. Our pancake breakfast was huge this year. We had 480 people come to that. This should say ice cream parlor feed, not fee, a little typo there, I apologize. But we had 330 people show up at the ice cream parlor on a Wednesday night just in 3 hours. And the firemen and firefighters were all serving ice cream. And we had a fire truck outside so the kids could look at that. And we handed out some literature that night. So that was a huge success too. And then we have that smoke training trailer that we use for firefighters. We also use it for our police department tactical team and things like that. And that's our self-contained breathing apparatus and our smoke trailer. And we've even put media people in it so they could see it. And they get lost in panic. So it's not an easy job sometimes. But we took that to WIT Fire Schools we do every year, and we actually put 91 firefighters through that trailer from the tri-state area. So that's a nice training tool to have that was all furnished with donations and things like that. The next page is just some of the non-paid things that, they still truly are volunteer firefighters. I mean, we do give them call pay and some training pay. At the bottom, 1,537 hours of donated time by your 25 firefighters, different projects in the community. And that's everything from the fair to chamber events and all that kind of stuff, and I'll let you look at that. Nick Dorr was our firefighter of the year that we presented in 2013. Now that would have been for our year of 2012. So at our banquet in February, we'll actually be naming a new firefighter of the year for the 2013 calendar year. But Nick, he stepped to the plate. He works out of town, but he attended 38 of the 41 training sessions in-house, and he made about 60% of the fire calls, even though he works out of town. He's one of those guys that has to leave at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Orange City to work, and he'll get up and come to fire at 2 in the morning and still go up to work that morning yet. So we honored Nick with the firefighter of the year. And then the last 3 pages are just photos that we've taken at different scenes. There's some actual accident scenes, fire scenes, trainings, the year of the flood. The second page, you can see how beautiful our airport looked before we started pumping water to save it and things like that. There's a nice little road there going to the Mayor's and Rex Winkle's there that you can't get there from here. Little flood across 4th Avenue there and stuff. So just some different photos of different events that we had going on during the year. The last page shows some training with Dean Foods that we do every year with hazmat. And then the bottom picture was actually a rescue with our aerial truck and the ambulance crew out at our wastewater plant for a guy that was overcome by heat. We had to fish him out of the bottom of the thing out there, and everything went great. So if you have any questions on that report, feel free to call me or ask me now. But again, thank you for your support and all that you support us with throughout the year. Thank you for supporting the truck, and we'll keep keeping on the best we can and make the city a safer place to live for all of us. Any questions?
Dave, I just want to share with you that on behalf of the city council and the administration people, we want to congratulate and appreciate what you do for the city of Lamars, all your people. You're doing a good job.
I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the fact that you went out, or somebody went out and pounded the pavement for this trade-in, rather than trading it in, sold to a neighboring city. That's wonderful, and since Ken Nelson's not here, 2 weeks ago, he shared that when he's laying on his back in his living room and needs an ambulance, costs and concerns and expenses go out the window. So, yeah, I agree with the mayor there 100%. I'm pretty impressed with your department, what I've seen.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that was about a $30,000 turnaround by trading that to another city, then trading it into the company. So worked out really, really well for us on that high dollar of item that we're trying to purchase.
But you might want to get another pancake griddle going at the next firefighters deal.
You had to wait in line a while, didn't you?
That one griddle system just didn't work.
Yeah, you had to wait in line. I apologize, but we do have another one that I figured out, I think, so we'll be okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, now, Bill,
Okay, I'd like to
talk about
just
the budget.
talk about the budget a little bit. I think you've all gotten your budget books now. If you open the inside cover, you'll see a budget schedule, which is the same schedule you've gotten in the past. We are now 3/4 of the way down the page. We've had numerous department head meetings, we've had numerous committee meetings. Appreciate all the time everybody's put in to get to this point.
Got mine with me.
The next thing we have to do is have a budget workshop, which is scheduled for January 29th from 4 to 7. We do have department heads come for that meeting, depending on which ones you want to hear from. Last year, we had ambulance, fire, police, and public works, streets and facilities, public facilities. If you want to just let me know over the next week or so which department you'd like to have at that budget workshop, we'll make sure the department head is here to answer any questions. And again, all of you serve on the various committees, so we do have committee input on every department. As you look at your budget book, first page is a list of bullet points. We talked about the budget schedule. The fund summary is probably the center point of the budget if you want to look at page 2. And again, I'm not going to go through all this now. We'll go through that at budget workshop. But what you see is we measure our balanced budget by a general fund, which is halfway down the page, shows total general fund. Revenues of 6.9, expenditures 7.1, which shows us at a shortfall at this point of 181,000. That's kind of a guideline of where we want to end up, is try to get to a balanced budget with a zero there. So that's what we'll kind of be looking for. One thing new in the summary that you'll see, again, about 3/4 of the page down, with the property tax rollback, there's an industrial and commercial property tax rollback this year, which the state has agreed to backfill for the first 2 years of it. So that shows you about 62,000 is projected to come in on the state backfill. You see this budget has the levy being at $13.50, which is where it was last year. Last year, we lowered it from $13.75 down to $13.50. We're continuing to project it at that rate. Overall budget is $21.1 million, which you also see on the fund summary page. We have budgeted for no new full-time positions and no increases in health insurance at this point. This budget does include a 3% employee increase in wages, and that's by the bargaining contract, which we'll have, that will be the last year of the bargaining contract, with a 1-year contract. If you look at page 3 and 4, again, you don't have to turn to them, but that gives a summary of revenue. 4 is a summary of expenditures. If you want to turn to 5 and 6, That represents the individual departments' requests for capital improvements. That might be vehicles, that might be equipment. Again, this list, the first page is general fund departments, the second page, most of it is the enterprise funds, your water, wastewater. And the total request for capital equipment is about 1.2 million this year. So we'll be looking at those budgets as we meet next week. Pages 7 to 12 is where we can't calculate the transfers in between departments. And again, if you flip to that page, page 7 is kind of a summary of the transfers. We are showing a transfer of 150,000 from road use into general and transfer of TIF for street maintenance, or road use for street maintenance of 200,000. So we will have those, we'll go through those transfers at the budget session, but that's where the transfers are located. Page 22 is one I'd like you to look at momentarily. This shows the rollback effect, and what that's showing is that if you have a $100,000 house, here in Lamar's, your city share of taxes is going to be $734, whereas last year it was $713, because we're not changing the levy, but the rollback changed.
And the rollback changed because home property taxes are tied to agricultural land property taxes. So when the land for the farmers goes up 3%, your home is worth 3% more. So if you don't change your rollback, you don't change your mill levy, the homeowners are going to have a 3% increase in property taxes, and the commercial and businesses are going to have a 5% decline.
And that rollback is a state decision, not a city decision.
Yeah, it's done in a little committee room, about 4 or 5 people do it and come up with a number in November. And that 3% increase, if you think it's a one-time deal, it's going to take them, according to my conversation with Chuck Soderberg, probably take them 6 to 7 years of 3% increases to get land to the proper value. So you're going to see homes go up 3% a year for the next 6, 7 years for the rollback.
And the bottom half of that page shows the industrial and commercial. They did roll it back 5% this year, and that is what is being backfilled back in at the state level. Again, that may go on for several years, but the state's only agreed to backfill the first 2 years at this point as far as funding.
So that's something we'll have to keep in mind down the road.
Absolutely. The next, page 26 and 27 are taxable valuations. That just shows by district what the valuations are by district. Pages 31 to 68, that's where we get into each general fund department. And again, all these departments were just talked about at committee level, and will be talked about with any questions at the budget workshop. Those pages show about 5 years of history, shows the last year's budget, year-to-date, plus what FY15, and that's what the department heads brought forward, and then the committees modified, so that is an up-to-date number on all those pages. Enterprise funds, that's your water, wastewater, golf, solid waste. Those are pages 70 to 92. Again, they have the same type of information. And the final part of the book shows our debt portfolio, some treasurer's reports, the hospital budget, local option sales tax, and this year we're working on a multi-year plan for vehicle replacement, so that's included in there. Just some other notes down to the bottom. Once again, this year we're releasing over $1 million worth of TIF in the Lamar's Urban Renewal. What happens when we release $1 million, about 400,000 goes to the school district, about 400,000 comes to us, and the rest goes to the county and other entities. And so that should help with everybody's budget. We did that last year, helped immensely, and we're projecting that we can go ahead and do that again this year. In fact, we have certified that we'll do that. And we do have the issue with health insurance that we will have to eliminate our part-time employees to 29 hours per week or offer them health insurance. So again, that was just a quick overview. We'll go into a whole lot more detail at the workshop. Any specific questions I can answer today?
On that part-time insurance, 29-hour Obamacare thing, right?
Yes.
Is that, didn't we get another year?
It got extended to January of 15.
Yeah, so, but this year is the measurement date.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So we don't have to do it for calendar 14.
14, right.
Oh, we have to do it for 15, but 15 is based upon what we do in 14. So if they hit the limits in 14, we got to pay for them starting
I
at
see,
15.
okay, all right.
So we don't have as much of a reprieve as everybody thinks, because
right,
the measurement periods are actually right now.
Okay,
We're in the measurement period right now.
great.
Okay.
The other thing I think that we can talk about, since we did the fire truck, is our general fund balance is fairly high, and we'll get the exact numbers, but we're gonna put some of that general fund balance to pay part of the fire truck, so that we don't have to increase taxes to pay for part of the fire truck.
Right.
So that's again, we got a good deal on the trade, we got a good deal on the price, and now because we haven't spent our budget money the last couple of years, we're able to use that to pay for part of the fire truck.
Okay.
So when we say general fund, it's not current general fund?
It's not a current general
It's fund
fund
balance.
budget, it's a fund balance that's
Correct.
left over.
Correct.
We called it a fund position this year because they wanted to change the name. But,
So, Bill, on your cover page, under the fund summary, the shortfall of 181,000 is, help me out here. Is that what we look at trimming or?
Yes.
That's our target,
That's
yeah.
why we
To
have
get
the
that as
budget.
close
All
to
right,
zero as
okay.
possible.
That's what we
we've done in the
discussed in our
past.
workshop.
Okay, right. Okay, that's what I thought it meant. I just wanted to
Yep.
get that clear. Okay.
Any questions? I just want to comment on one thing, and that is that you cannot believe the hours and the time and the effort that our administrative people, and particularly Bill and his group, have put in on this budget process, and all the figures. And the thing that I like about it is the fact that if there's a question come up, Bill can tell you what page to turn to and what the figure is. And that's worth an awful lot. So on behalf of the city council, I just want to thank you, Bill, and your group for what you're doing, and Scott.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
well, it's the same thing, I think we've said in committee meetings too, and we've actually got everybody
Absolutely.
on the employees wanting to do the right thing too, because they're taxpayers too. You know, it's not a push and shove, it's not me against you, it's we're all trying to work together for the same reason. I mean, we've had people, like we said with Dave, trying to get a better price. We've had people on Public Works trying to get a better price, you know. There's a lot of people trying to do the right thing on this kind of stuff, and it doesn't come out in black and white pages, but it has happened that way. And I agree with the mayor 100% on what he said.
And it's called teamwork, and everybody's working on the same page, and that's one reason why we don't have to raise our taxes, and we've been able to do what we've been able to do over the last few years, so.
And that, the vehicle projection spreadsheet, 10-year plan, would bring that, hopefully, I mean, a target at 750,000 a year rather than a fluctuating number each year. So that's,
Right,
I
that's
think
our
that's a
goal, is to limit.
fantastic idea. That's a really good idea, so.
Just started that this year.
Yep, just start, yep, so.
Okay, anything else?
Again, just let me know which department you'd like at the workshop, and we'll make sure they're all there. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.